What's up, everybody, and welcome into the Backliners podcast. It's Aggro and BaRRaCCuDDa. As per usual, this week, look, you know that we really need some juice, some gas, whenever we call in the big guns, and we sure have this week. It's Dave, Dolson, Olson. Dave, you're much like corn because you have the juice.
I can't say the other one. I guess I can. I'm also a big lump with knobs. And I can't imagine a more beautiful thing, and that's on self-confidence. So good for me today.
I really wasn't sold on you, Dave, until I tried you with butter.
Lather me up.
Yeah, that's what really sold me. Bear, have you seen the TikTok that we are referencing?
No, I do not have TikTok.
I do have TikTok, but I only watch ones that Joe sends me.
That's fair. That's fair.
But
how many does she send you?
So many.
Yeah, okay, this is good. Yep.
Well, I don't watch all of them. I can't.
What?
I just can't.
That's a little disrespectful.
Yeah, I know it is, and I feel badly about it, but I just I can't do it. It's so many. I don't open the app. For a while, she was just DMing them to me, and then we would sit down on the couch and I'd check my DMs. We would just watch them, and then one time I opened up my DMs and it was like, you have 400 plus new messages, and I was like, I don't want to be around anymore. That's too many for me to want to try and catch up on. You know?
Well, there's no. That's really on you. There's no way she sent you 400 between sittings.
No,
it was check for weeks at a time.
It was weeks.
Yeah.
It was. But what am I?
Okay.
What do I have to fold it into my routine that I have to check
every night for about an hour? You scroll through TikTok. They actually, you know what's bad is they actually have, they have a dude who pops up. The actual TikTok account has some formula behind the scenes where, if you have been sitting and scrolling on the app for long enough, the next video you swipe to will be from TikTok themselves, and it's one of their creators they hired out to say, yo, you've been scrolling for too long, take a break, come back later. And I haven't figured out what that threshold is, but that's usually my cue to go to bed.
Wow.
I didn't know that was a thing.
When does the dude tell you?
I wonder.
I'm gonna figure this.
At the end of the day, that has to be they must see reduced return on ads after a certain amount of time, or else they would never do something like that, right?
Right.
In no way would they willingly be hey, stop using our platform.
Get off of our app.
Get off of our
outside.
app. Yeah, because we care
you
about
doing?
you. Yeah, right. You care about me, TikTok. You don't. Okay, I don't believe them. And so they must have some interesting data in order to show that. Are you guys data or data fans?
Data.
Oh,
Okay.
There we go. Perfect.
All right, that's the synergy we were looking for. That is what I used first. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was gonna give shouts to the platypus in chat who's talking about you use TikTok when you go to the restroom. And one of my favorite recurring bits on TikTok is I always find Reddit, TikTok, whatever, the comments are usually funnier than the actual
Post
thing
itself, right.
a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite comments is it'll be on random videos, whether it's a happy puppy video, a soldier coming home video, sports, gym, whatever. It totally doesn't matter, and it's just somebody who says, "Congrats, you're the video that kept replaying while I was wiping." Because what you'll do is you'll use it while you're going to the bathroom, and then you just put your phone down when you're finishing up.
Yep.
And the video just keeps looping through.
Right.
Depending on how long that process takes for you. So it's funny.
Right.
Knowing that you've experienced a video and TikTok in a very similar way, in a very vulnerable state.
Yes.
Alongside many other users. That's just one of my favorite recurring comments. And it always catches me off guard.
That is a good. I like that comment because it's something that surely everybody has experienced. That's doing that. And we don't have a sponsorship for this product, but we really should try and get one. Because I'm a huge fan of we got bidets off of Amazon. They're life changing, dude. It is not hard to install. And where before that video may have been looping for an amount of time that I don't want to say. Now it's a much faster process, and it's better overall. So
I agree with you, Aggro. They're
get in on
life changing. They're so OP.
The best.
They're relatively cheap. They're like $20 or $30.
Not expensive.
Amazon.
Yep.
And
And however unhandy you think you are, podcast viewer / listener, you can do this. Okay. 100%. It did take me longer than I want to admit, and I did feel a sense of accomplishment that was unwarranted for the amount of difficulty that it took. But it still made me feel better inside and out afterwards,
This choice one, $35 for the Lux bidet.
There you go.
Self-cleaning nozzle. That's not too bad.
That's not too bad. No, I mean, you can definitely get it for around that price. And for the record, if you don't want a bunch of people knowing that you're searching for bidets, well, then we do have a sponsor for that, is what I'm here to tell you. Dave, did you know that you could be missing out on your favorite show on Netflix or something like that just because it isn't available in your region? Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah, it's absolutely horrible. It's happened before.
Well, let me introduce NordVPN. Look, VPNs, we all know what they do at this point. We've been telling you about how great they are, how they keep your information safe, how they help you make sure that no one's spying on your activity. Not that you're doing anything weird, but, you
gotta look out for
you don't want to see like 53 bidet ads. If you're listening to this without headphones in, and your Alexa or Google Home hears us talking about bidets, you're gonna get a million bidet ads, and God forbid you actually Google one. It's gonna be this whole ordeal. With a VPN, that could be a little bit more segmented. You can keep your information a little bit more private, if you will. Plus, it helps with your passwords and all that kind of stuff, making sure that all of that information is encrypted and you don't have to worry about your IP or location getting out. And they've doubled down on keeping you safe with their new threat protection feature. Say goodbye to intrusive website ads and malware. Even if you downloaded an infected file, threat protection kicks in and deletes it before it makes a mess of your computer. And don't forget, there's literally no risk to you within their 30-day money-back guarantee. So give it a try, and if you like it, great. And if you don't, they'll issue you a refund, and you can pretend the entire situation never even happened. Dave, what's a situation you wish you could pretend never even happened?
Are you referencing what I texted you about today?
No, I'm really not. This was just like, how could I segue this in the most uncomfortable way possible for Dave? And don't forget that I still have to give out the link at the end of this. This is all a part of the ad.
Okay. Well, I want to go into this more later, but for the sake of the ad, I'll talk about the fact that I got crushed by a Smith machine at the gym today in front of everyone. I wish I could forget that ever happened.
Right. Well, if there was a money-back guarantee like NordVPN has, they could. But bad news for you, Dave. There isn't. And you will have to live with that.
It'll live with me forever.
That's right. Yeah. Check out my link, which is nordvpn.com/backliners to get your subscription started today. You get a huge discount on a 2-year plan plus 1 free month. So that's nordvpn.com/backliners. Thanks to NordVPN for being a part of the show. All right, I suppose we should.
So many things.
I know, so many things to go over, and let me get out ahead of them. Okay, we are doing the show a little bit early today because Dave and I have a fantasy football draft that's happening at 8 that I forgot about when we talked about moving the show to a Tuesday today. But yesterday was a U.S. holiday, and Bear and I were enjoying ourselves. So there's nothing we can do about that.
I had my fantasy football draft yesterday. So.
Bear also had his fantasy football draft yesterday. So fantasy football is kind of owning the Backliners. But the Backliners are going to be owning fantasy football right after this. So a couple factors going into today's show. Number one, fantasy football is owning all of us. So we are going to have to be out of here within a reasonable amount of time. Number two, we are in this Smite off-season, in between phases a little bit. And we do have some content that's coming up that we are planning on doing. But right now we're in a little bit of a drought. So this episode is going to be Smite light, if I had to guess. Though we are going to talk about casting here in a little bit with Dave, as he is the resident expert. And thirdly, I'm in a mood and will not be convinced to not be in a mood. So if you are the type of viewer who goes down to the bottom of the YouTube channel and looks for when someone said Smite Talk starts at timestamp, this is not going to be a long episode for you. It might be who knows where it will be, and who knows how long we're going to stay on it. So I apologize in advance if that's what you're here for. If there is, I did want to say that if there is like more broad, abstract type of discussion that that our viewers or listeners want to hear, I will be checking comments, and you feel free to tweet at me or put it in YouTube comments or anything like that. And I think that we are... Bear, remember when we started this whole shindig way back in the day? And we would talk about things like how to win a ranked game as a jungler. You know, we would like talk about stuff like that. And I think that you could go back and listen to those episodes, by the way, because those are still things that are relevant. And I just feel like we would just be rehashing that episode, but it's been literal years now at this point.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because we covered a lot of various Smite topics, and I feel like we did a pretty good job at doing that in the off season. But now I feel like we've kind of covered basically everything. I mean, if there's anything you guys want us to discuss, definitely leave a comment or DM me or Aggro or Dolson. You know, you never know.
Don't DM Dolson. Don't do it.
Yeah,
don't
DM
do
Dolson.
It. No,
well, it depends what it's about. If it's like the life of a mediocre MOBA player, then absolutely, I'm your guy. If you actually want to know how to win games, then no, stay far away from my DMs.
DM Dolson.
Listen, we all want... Here's the reality of the situation, Dave, is that I think a lot of our viewers and listeners are probably just looking for an excuse to DM you. A foot in the door, so to speak.
I was giving him one.
You got to have that opener in order to slide into the DMs appropriately, you know?
And speaking of feet, that is the right way to get into the DMs. Just a quick... just kidding. Please, God, no. Please, dear God, no.
Oh, man.
Give me like a minute.
Look forward to hearing how many feet pictures you get in your DMs.
If it's more than 0, I've shot myself in the foot. So hopefully it's that many.
Fair enough. You said you wanted to get into it a little bit, Dave, about your gym mishap, because it also does it does relate to one of the fine hosts of this here program as well.
Yeah, well, so Bear and I have been running into each other at the gym a couple of times. We had a nice long conversation. I felt kind of bad, Bear, because we talked for like...
Yeah, I have to spot Dolson. You know, he does about 9 times the weight that I do, and I just had to keep lifting it off of him, and it's just...
Well, I could have used you today, so I won't get super in-depth on the mechanics of it, but I was doing squats on the Smith machine today because it's just more stable and I have to focus less on keeping myself from moving around, and I can just focus on pushing the weight up. And I wanted to make it more quad-centric, so I put a little platform under the backs of my feet so my knees would go forward, it would stretch the quads more, and it would work the front of my legs more, for any who are interested. Now, I put a decent amount of weight on it, and I was doing fine. Went up a little bit. I was on my last working set, and I was going up. You know, I gotta push myself. I got, like, a tad dizzy, because I was holding my breath and really pushing up and you know, kind of got a little flush. And when I pushed up to the top, what I had chosen to have the backs of my feet on were not super stable. And it's actually kind of scary. So this is going to be a warning.
This scares me.
This is going to be a warning to all who want to work out. Somebody just DM'd me a picture of their feet. So, that's why I'm looking down at my phone.
Record time.
Ban described from chat, if you could. That'd be great. Anyway, let this be a warning. If you're using the Smith machine for heavy movements and you are underneath it, there are little, like, guards on the side that you can put up where if you drop it, the bar doesn't go all the way down to the floor. Because my foot slipped off this platform, which knocked my body weight off, and you have to roll the bar forward for it to lock on the rails to keep the bar from going down. And when my foot slipped off the thing and I'm all dizzy from doing too much, obviously I fall backwards. So my hands roll back.
Pull it off.
I kind of stabilize myself, but suddenly I'm like one leg underneath this weight. And I like kind of nearly get it forward, but I'm like hunched over at this point. And my fight or flight kicked in, and it was big time flight, and I just like... I rolled out as fast as I could because my back was like bent at a weird angle.
Hate this.
And this is So props to me because it was a lot of weight, and so I looked super strong when I was actually doing it.
Mm-hmm.
The downside is it was so much weight that it boomed through the gym when I dropped it. And so I did what any respectable person would do and just laid on the floor face down for about 15 seconds. And even though I could have gotten up and walked away, I pretended like I was hurt to get sympathy from the room. So I was laying on the ground, head in hands, like just flat down. Bar is like on the ground, like inches from the ground. And so, like, serious warning, if you're doing heavy weight, use the clips, because if I hadn't rolled out, I'm like under all of this weight, and it's not safe at all. So that's on me. But I did try to seek sympathy from those who just heard all this weight crash.
And surely you got some. Did anyone come to your valiant rescue?
Actually, it was super nice. I felt a hand touch my back, and I stand up, and like maybe the one dude, clearly nobody at the gym is bigger than I am, but the one guy who was bigger than me, kind of had his hand on me, and he's like, "Whoa, man! Like, did you pass out?" And I was like, "Yeah, that was definitely it. I don't know what happened." And so he like grabs my arm, and I'm like, "Oh no, my back's just tweaked." He's like, "No, I'm a paramedic. I'm checking your pulse." And I was like, "Yeah, you probably do that. I don't know I don't know what's going on." And like people at the bench rack that's right in front of me are like staring at me, and I'm like kind of like feeling my back. I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. Something's tweaked back there." And that was literally my second exercise of the day. My back is like a little sore, and so I need to like be mindful of it.
Stretch that bad boy out.
I went over and I did like one hamstring exercise very much on a machine and not free weights on me, and I left after that. So that was my gym story for the day, and let it be a lesson. If you're on the Smith machine, use the clips, and don't do so much weight that if you're gonna finish, you're not gonna be able to like rack it. So it was potentially scary and ended up being a moment that I never want to think of again. But I guarantee you 10 years from now, I'm going to be awake in bed thinking about that one time the entire gym was staring at me pretending to be hurt in the fetal position on the ground. So that was my story.
And I do have to say that as someone who knows Dave pretty well, he is not lying when he says that 10 years from now, he really will be thinking about that exact moment 10 years from now.
Because you have to understand, there's a pyramid at the gym, right? There's a hierarchy that gets built in my own head, and I'm like, I walk
that everyone follows,
right? That everyone clearly follows,
right?
It's I try to build like an idea that like people can come up and ask me questions if they want, but I also look like I know what I'm doing, blah blah blah, and that just blew it up in like one moment. Anyone who's there, now knows that I should never be trusted with anything. Now I have no credibility. Luckily,
welcome to my level.
Yeah.
Luckily, it was like half empty, but horrible.
But now you have no pressure on you, Dave. You're putting all this pressure on yourself to appear in this manner, and now you don't have that burden anymore. You can just go in there and do your thing and not have to worry about it.
Absolutely. You know what I think? Have you ever heard girls talk about the ick? Like getting the ick about something? I don't know if that's a term you guys have heard.
No.
It's like super mundane things that for whatever reason off-put a girl. It could be a guy too, I guess, but in my experience, obviously, it's been girls who have said like, "Oh,
the vibes are off."
When a guy, I don't know what gives people the ick. Claps when a plane lands. Suddenly, like, the alarm bells are ringing, and like I just can't be attracted to this person at all anymore.
Yep.
I think that I just gave every person in the gym the ick. Is my point. Like seeing me crumple underweight suddenly is just like icked every human within earshot, and it was horrible.
like a vulnerability. Like, oh, this guy is like vulnerable, like he's more approachable now. Like,
there you go.
God tier on the pyramid.
He didn't get mad. I was thinking when you were describing the ick, I was thinking about like examples of it. I thought of two immediately that I know are pretty much guaranteed. If these are things that sound familiar to you, dear podcast listener or viewer, these are things that I would recommend working on. Number one, it's getting overly mad about really anything at all, but overly mad when things don't go well for you, especially, that is always a turnoff for potential partners of any gender. And then the second one is getting overly competitive about things. Like when you're joking around, like playing a game of like, I'll throw an example from a great show, which was Married at First Sight, that Joe and I were watching a while ago. Psychotic show, by the way.
Is it real?
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm asking that.
These people like just submit themselves to these matchmakers, basically, and then they get married. The first time they see each other's at the altar, and then they just like follow them through a honeymoon, and then they like live together for a few weeks. It's awesome. Psychotic, by the way. But these two were like playing ping pong, and they're messing around, having a good time, whatever. And then the girl starts to win, and the guy starts getting really like competitive and mad, and like, I've got to win this game. And it was like weird, and I've seen that in a lot of like old friends and girls that I were friends with, like dating guys who would get like that. And it is just, that's like one of those things that it's, the ick is a term I've never heard, but that's like the first thing that I thought of. But what Bear is saying is true. You kind of, you rolled with a bad situation, and you didn't like fight the Smith machine, which
I literally
some people
rolled
might do.
out
Exactly.
of the way. It was terrible. But yeah, luckily it was a relatively empty time, so my exposure could have been a lot worse. Like peak gym time, I avoided that at least.
Bear, I had a question for you. As someone who used to go to the gym with Dave a lot, and it sounds like you two are running into each other there. How have you been battling the overwhelming feeling of just inefficiency and just complete I'm thinking of the word, and I just can't, my brain's not giving it to me.
Like
inadequacy.
A David Goliath thing?
Yeah, no,
you
just complete inadequacy that you feel trying to work out next to Dave. Have you felt that as I did?
No, I
okay,
right
that's just a me thing. Cool.
Well, Dave approached me, and I was like so in my own head that I was half wondering, I was like, is this a dream? Like, I'm pretty sure for the first like 5 minutes of talking to Dolson, I was like, I don't think this is real.
Yeah.
And I was like, this doesn't seem right.
I know.
I just saw this dude get crushed by a Smith machine. How's the
I've kind of just accepted it,
Yeah, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, I accepted it instantly. I was like, I might be, give me like 10 years, maybe. And I will, maybe get the muscles that he's got. But I accepted it instantly. I was like, he's doing literally 10 times the weight that I'm doing. And I will just... I mean, I understand where I am on the hierarchy.
Yeah, in Dave's pyramid of the gym hierarchy, we know our place. And I think that's important.
I feel like I need to clarify that.
No, you don't.
I love everyone, and everyone's welcome at the gym. And actually, my favorite moments at the gym are when people who are new come up to me and ask me questions. That's like absolutely my favorite thing in the world. Because I went to a super small gym when I first started, and I didn't really have anyone to go up and talk to. So when people ask me stuff, I love it. Even online with like Twitch chat and stuff, that's been great. So everyone should feel and is welcome at any point in the gym. It's
true.
Time.
It wasn't anything you were doing, Dave.
When I meant
just
hierarchy, I meant like people who look like they know what they're doing to be approached about that sort of stuff.
Right.
To everyone who's in there now, I'm no longer a source of information. Oh. Right. Like.
Yeah.
So that's unlucky for
me. As long as they're not asking about the Smith machine, they should be fine. Okay, we should probably talk about our general topic here that we had, and that was that I tasked young John BaRRaCCuDDa Salter to come up with some casting questions, because I feel like
he's interviewing us.
Yeah, he's interviewing you mostly, Dave. I might toss my opinion in here and there, but I'm washed up. I'm out of the game these days. You're the expert around here, so they're really for you. Okay. You
don't just lose it though, Aggro. It's like riding a bike. It's like riding a bike.
Do you remember 2 minutes ago when I couldn't remember the word inadequate?
Yeah, but
me too.
That was happening when you were casting too.
Oh, great! So I was never good. Okay, I see that our roles have reversed for this episode, Dave. That I'm doing all the self-deprecation this time around.
Did you not just hear the tirade I went on about Smith machine. I'm gonna scroll through TikTok tomorrow, and there's gonna be a person who goes to my gym posting about watching a dude get crushed by a Smith machine, and that's their ick now. You know what I mean? Like, I've got to live with that every day for the rest of my life.
There's no way that happens, but oh my god, would it be funny if
I'm
it
gonna
did.
be 90 with a family and great grandchildren. I'm gonna feel a slight tweak in my back, and I'm gonna wonder if it was that day back in 2022 when 315 pounds crashed down on my back and erupted in the gym, and everyone who was in there had to watch me crumpled up on the floor like a wet noodle. That's what I'm gonna be thinking about when I'm 90. I'm not gonna be enjoying life. I'm not gonna be loving my family environment. I'm not gonna be enjoying the position I've put myself in. I'm going to be thinking about being crushed by a Smith machine. So that's
yeah, because only if those children only knew what their great grandfather did when posed in front of a Smith machine. All right, Barry.
My granddad telling me about his World War II adventures, me telling my grandchildren about my Smith machine.
Exactly.
It's all comparable.
Exactly.
All right, I'm done speaking on it.
All right, Barry, fire away.
So I actually tasked Destiny with coming up with a question.
Wow, outsourced, unbelievable.
Well, I had done this before, and I remembered
true.
that I had, and I was like, I wonder if she can come up with any questions that I wouldn't normally have thought of.
Okay.
So her first question is, did you always see yourself casting, and if not, how did the opportunity arise for you? Which is a good question, because I would not have asked something like that.
That is a great question. So no, I did not always see myself casting in a literal professional sense. I mean, I've always been more vocal and robust is not the right word. Maybe robust.
Verbose.
Verbose is the right word.
You're right. It does happen to casters. Now I feel better. Thanks, Dave.
I'm a nice, robust pasta sauce. No, I've always been the more verbose one in my friend group. So I've always known, and like growing up, my parents, my grandparents always said I'd be great at like being a lawyer or anything forward facing because I'm good at talking. But like esports always seemed like just kind of out of reach, like its own little industry. Like don't know anyone in it. How do you possibly get involved in something like that? Because I really started watching like the LCS back in college, but it always seemed unattainable to the point where I didn't even really think about it. Maybe more so thought of potentially streaming than I ever did casting. But I went to college with one of my best friends. His name is Dom. His older brother, who's also one of my really good friends, Pretty Hair, or Nick, as Ryan and I know him, works on Rogue Company now. But he was 1 year older than me in college, and I think he had an internship with Hi-Rez like over the summers at the time, and when he would come back, you know, we would hang out and stuff through my friend Dom. And the way he tells the story is one night we all went out in Athens, Georgia, and if you're familiar or not, you know, it's like 90 bars within like a couple square miles, and that's like kind of the culture there. It's like a lot of what there is to do. So we all went out, and my apartment at the time was super close to downtown, so we all came back and we're just hanging out at my apartment after the night. And I've always been the type who's fine like sitting back and watching people who are better at me like play games and actually enjoying it. My roommates are really good at Super Smash Brothers, and Nick is super competitive, so they all sat down and started playing. And in my alcohol fueled gusto, decided to start like kind of jokingly commentating it, and the way Nick tells it, in the back of his head, he was like, you know, this guy's actually kind of good. I know he's drunk and not really trying, but like the way he talks and the energy he has, like actually is not too bad. And again, he was an intern at the time, eventually got brought over to the esports side to work on Paladins, and they went through a few casters. I had graduated, I was working in consulting, eventually went to Home Depot, so I was like super far removed. But Paladins entered a time where they needed someone local, someone available, someone relatively cheap to be able to step in and help cast. And I was always kind of a bug to Nick about like getting me a job at Hi-Rez Gaming, blah blah blah, so cool. And I happened to bug him once at a really good time when they were looking for someone. He's like, actually, you know what? I remember you were actually like sneaky kind of good at this. If you come over to my apartment, every night or once a week for the next like 6 months, we'll give you a tryout. You're going to learn paladins, and we'll get you up and running. So I went in, tried out. We casted a game of League because that's all I really knew at the time. They recorded it, showed it to the higher ups. They thought that I had potential, and then I really had to learn paladins. And so Nick worked with me a lot. Rain Day, who was here at the time, worked with me a lot. Goremizer worked with me a lot, and got things up and running. And I guess I did a good enough job then. I was only on paladins exclusively for 1 year. That was season 6 of Smite, so it would have been the last DreamHack, last Worlds, and became friends with a lot of the guys on the Smite team. So when some of the other Smite casters were leaving, Paladins was downsizing a little bit, and they found a way to organize it where Goremizer and I transitioned over to Smite from Paladins, and we did Paladins like once a week. So that's really how I got involved, was like just I'm the poster child for like knowing someone,
Mm-hmm.
and that gets you into the industry. Obviously, I'll give myself some credit that like the talent to do it, but I purely was just given a shot by someone who's already at the company, and then I give myself credit by doing a good enough job on my initial chance to kind of stick around after that. But kind of a long-winded story, but it can be summarized by knowing someone and letting the alcohol confidence.
And that's the moral of the story.
That's the moral of the story.
Right there, yeah.
And at the end of that first year, the alcohol had me crying and thanking everyone for the best year of my life.
Oh, it's true, dude.
Just you guys wait. Oh my God.
This after party at Worlds.
This after party.
It's going to be something.
It's going to be the best.
It is going to be the best. It's true. That first after party that Dave was a part of the Paladins casting team.
Yeah.
I just such a good after party that year,
Yep.
and very good memories of Dave with happy tears about his transition and everything like that, which was awesome. And it is true, by the way, from the outside. Paladins was looking for casters, and I remember Nick was interviewing a bunch of them. And no offense if any of the people who interviewed for that position before Dave are listening, but Nick was losing hope rapidly. And then he was like, oh, Dom, my little brother, his friend, he was like drunkenly casting Smite or Smash one night a while ago, and we're going to try him out. And I was like, holy crap, we are really in trouble if that's like where we're going. But Dave
Totally
came
fair,
in and has always has been impressive since day one. And I'll say what I said then, which was he has so much going for him naturally when it comes to like casting mechanics. It's really just a matter of how well can he learn the game that he's working on, and I don't think that Dave gets enough credit for how well and how quickly he understood Smite in particular. No disrespect to Paladins in any way, but he came from a shooter background. Much at the end of the day, point and click. It's move the payload. It's you can kind of let your chair 2 do a lot of it. MOBAs are very hard to even chair 1 for, and Dave really picked up his game knowledge very quickly on Smite, and that was always going to be his only limiting factor, and it clearly has not limited him.
Thank God I'm not drunk right now. I'd be crying.
There it is. You can listen to it back later.
I will, and I'll do it.
That's how it is.
It was actually kind of funny because I remember like coming in for tryouts for Paladins. F-Dot was in studio one of the days, and it was the first time I had met him, and he's like, oh yeah, like what's your background? I used to do radio, this gig, blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, I work in data engineering at Home Depot. Like I got nothing, man, I'm sorry. And to his credit, he was super supportive. He was like, yeah, man, I mean, people come from all different backgrounds and find a way to make it work. So definitely an unconventional journey.
Yep. For me, it was I did want to be on camera. I went to school for on-camera broadcasting, but I had no intention of getting into esports, even though I was obviously very into them. I really wanted to be on SportsCenter. Was my big dream. I never once thought about doing play-by-play commentary at all. I didn't think that I had the voice for it. I really was worried that I didn't have the voice to be on TV. in general because it's such a competitive thing. But was working in sports radio. Just kind of started playing Smite on Xbox competitively on the side. I'd been playing Smite for a while, and we just kind of like looked at the Xbox players. We're like, these guys stink, and sure enough, they did. We also did, for the record. And my team didn't make a LAN because someone slept through a set against a winless team. We didn't make LAN. I basically messaged Adonis, I think it was, because he was the lead caster at the time, and was like, hey, if you want to have a guest caster for this Xbox event, like, I'm definitely down. And they did, and they flew me down. And I did some casting there, which I had really never done before. And I thought I was just going to desk, but I ended up doing some casting. And I flew back on Monday morning, as is tradition, stupid early in the morning. Flew back and then fell asleep as soon as I got home. And then I woke up to a text from Adonis saying, hey, if we offered you a job, would you move? And I said yes. And that was that. So yeah, never had any intention of going into play-by-play in any way, but definitely ended up enjoying it quite a bit. I like doing it.
And we're all better off for it.
Yep.
You know who you remind me of, Aggro, and I thought of this because you brought up SportsCenter. And this is and depending on how you feel about him, I mean it as a compliment. You are very similar to Kirk Herbstreit in my mind, in the way you talk about things and the way you process information and your pacing. And I love listening to Kirk Herbstreit.
I love Kirk Herbstreit too.
I love the way he talks through football and he carries his segments. I think you guys have a very similar way of pacing yourselves and getting your information across.
Yeah.
And that's always something I've thought about. Like, every time Kirk Herbstreit's on, I'm like, dude, I love this guy and the way he commentates games, gives his chair ones their ability to do their thing, and knows all the mechanics, knows the game super in depth. And so I've really appreciated being able to compare you two over the years.
Well, thanks, Dave. Now I'm gonna cry.
Yeah,
You guys are so cute.
Real quick, Kirk Herbstreit's best quality as an analyst is something that I did try and emulate a lot during my casting time, and for prospective casters out there, particularly Chair 2s, the thing that Kirk Herbstreit does really well that I tried to emulate is that he conveys energy and information simultaneously really well. He can match a moment, be excited, but not overtake a moment, and still be informative during that time. And it's a very fine line to walk. But for all the wannabe analysts and Chair 2s out there, that's definitely a skill that you can learn from what Kirk Herbstreit does. That I certainly did.
One of the goods.
No doubt.
You ready for the next question?
We are.
Yeah, please.
How has Smite changed since you started casting?
Ooh, that's a good question, Destiny.
Or rather, like, how has Smite changed you? If you don't want to go with the...
That's a much longer question.
Yeah, it is a much longer question.
Either question you want.
I'm trying to think, because I started season 7. So obviously the SPL has changed as far as orgs go. We're all internal, and so the way the league is structured has definitely changed. I'm trying to think of the big, like, sweeping changes from 7 to 9. Obviously, like, a lot of stuff on the map has changed, if that's the direction.
Yeah, I don't think she's looking for patch notes, like, or anything
super
like
granular.
that, Dave. Just what, like,
pacing.
how has what you? I'm guessing what she is the crux of this question, as far as casting goes, is like, what has changed in how you call the games. In that time.
I think for me it's actually kind of unique because I was fine when I first started. I think a lot of it is me, which is maybe actually the second part of that question. Where, like, I think I've changed a lot to the point where how I commentate is super different because I can actually process what's going on now, where when I first started, if there wasn't someone fighting, like, I had to ask a question, or my airtime was just not great. So I think my my big changes over the last few years are the ability to predict, maybe not the right word, but get a good feel of things that are happening next, reading team fights better. The game has definitely slowed down recently, which I don't necessarily dislike. I do think it opens up more opportunity for discussion earlier on in the game. If there are good storylines, it's super easy to get those across. Potentially makes the big later on game team fights more impactful, more important. I mean, even though it's slower earlier on, if there's like one big team fight around the FG, it's like a manufactured, this is the important moment right here and now. So this year is slowed down a bit team fight wise, but I think the biggest change has just been me and my knowledge of the game and the ability to actually understand what's happening. And I caught a little bit of flack when we first transitioned over from Paladins to Smite, and we knew it would be something that was met with sort of mixed emotion, because obviously there were some big names going out, some newer names coming in. And I think people appreciated sort of the general raw talent that I had, but like I definitely was lacking on game knowledge at the time, and even still sometimes nowadays I lack on it. But I think if I were to now go back and cast some moments in like Season 7 when I first started, there are definitely plenty of things that I think I could do better. Just by, actually, we had to go back and for some content pieces that'll be coming out around Worlds, go back and look at plays from the past. And of course, through that, we hear our own commentary. And so, like, listening to me in Season 7, like, super monotone at times, like very little inflection. Team fighting was okay, but like just the way I talked through stuff throughout the slower points in the game felt less exciting, felt more pedestrian. And so, specific game wise, I think it slowed down a little bit, which opens up for more back and forth discussion, which I actually really enjoy. I love just being able to chat with the guy who's next to me for a little while. But the biggest sweeping changes over the last like 3 years are really just my game knowledge and ability to read the game, and it's totally changed my outlook on things and how I set up for team fights, knowing when to drop team fights, looking at the freaking mini map every once in a while to know when ganks are happening, little things like that. I think have really built up, because I never came from a Smite background, so for a lot of like ex-pros or players who are at super high levels, they're learning to cast while having all this in-depth game knowledge. I was kind of the reverse. So I think I really had a lot of growing to do, and that was probably my biggest change over the last few years.
Nice.
Yeah, I think for me, number one, the easiest thing, I kind of touched on it earlier, my voice changed a ton. If you go back and listen to Season 3 when I first started, don't listen to any like World Championship or anything like that, because our vocal cords are just like so tattered by the end. But if you just listen to like regular season 3 or regular season early Season 4, my voice is really high pitched in comparison to what it is now and what it eventually became. And it's because I just used my voice so much. People forget how much we were casting back then. Like Season 4, we had SCL, I don't think, was it SML then? I think it might have been. The Smite Minor Leagues was SCC. And then we had the SGS, the Smite Global Series. I'm pretty sure Smite was being broadcast 7 days a week. We didn't all work 7 days a week, but we would work 5 and not have back-to-back off days. And it was just nothing but casting. And it was just a ridiculous amount of Smite. And really, my voice just deepened from overuse over that amount of time. But I'm not displeased with it. I've told the story before, but in college, I had an on-camera professor who was an Emmy-winning producer. she's the best teacher I've ever had, but incredibly blunt and not always super nice. And she told me that if I wanted to make it on a national scale, I should start smoking cigars and drinking whiskey in order to start damaging my vocal cords to lower my voice because my voice was too high. But I took the harder route. I just like casted a million games of Smite over the course of a couple of years. But that was like the biggest difference, I think, in how my casting changed, was that I was able to get into a vocal range that was much easier to get loud without straining, because you can get loud but go lower in your pitch. And that's kind of how, like, if you listen to F. Dot or Hindu Man, those two are complete masters of it. They don't go up with their hype, whereas Dave does. Dave rises when he gets more hyped. Those two would drop their pitch but raise their volume. And I kind of learned how to emulate that because my vocal range wasn't good enough to go up. So I kind of needed to learn how to go down in those moments, and that was pretty transformative for my casting style, was being able to go low in those bigger moments. And back in the day, I paid a lot more for my mobile service because Mint Mobile wasn't a thing back when I first started. There was no deal. It was all these middlemen and brick and mortar stores and all this complete nonsense they had to deal with. For casters now, they can simply just change on over to Mint Mobile, which is way better than anything we had back in the day. Look, you get premium wireless service for just $15 a month. You get to keep your same phone and your same phone number. You get the nation's largest 5G network. BaRRaCCuDDa and Destiny love it. Insert a minute of BaRRa talking about how much he loves Mint Mobile. That's what it says. BaRRa, go ahead. It says it right here,
Yeah, I thought that you had done that part. Yeah, me and Destiny love Mint Mobile. We use it daily, and I really enjoy the. Sorry for this sarcastic response, but you just threw it to me, and I was over here staring at the questions. Yeah, for real, it's the easiest way to save money. Like, you guys know me by now. I love saving money on everything. I literally today stopped by Kroger on the way home.
Get a coupon?
And, so they do markdowns on their vegetables and their breads, and I will buy everything that's marked down and make like a meal out of it. So this is way easier than doing that. You can literally sit at your home, order Mint Mobile. It comes fresh to your door. You get to keep your phone, keep your line, and it takes like 2 seconds to install. It's super easy.
Couldn't be easier. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped straight to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/backliners. That's mintmobile.com/backliners. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/backliners. All right, BaRRa, I think we got time for one more. One more here.
I'll try to be short.
Is fast approaching. Dave, who are you going to take? What pick are you? I don't even know.
I'm pick 2.
Oh, great.
I have one player that's already my first round pick in 2 of my other leagues, and so if he falls to me in this league, I'm going to take him again just to avoid having to play against him in any league. Anyway, sorry. I'll be short-winded on this answer, I promise.
Well, this was my favorite question.
Okay, great.
If you could take your knowledge now and go back and cast one other Worlds game from a past like Smite season, which one would you teleport back to and cast?
It's a great question. Destiny's good at this. She should do a podcast.
A different Worlds game. I think that would just have to be like one of the best like series that comes to mind for me, because I've only been around for a few Worlds here, and I don't know. I think I would have loved if I take atmosphere and all of that into account. Season 6 Worlds, the SK run. I think if I were able to cast as well as I do now, when I first started, no chance I'm taking that from anyone who was there. I still probably wouldn't. But my point now, I would probably cast that one at DreamHack Season 6. The SK run would be pretty cool to go back and run through. Those big moments, just what casters live for, and that set was pretty chaotic.
Boy, was it. Yeah, we had to stall for an hour almost in Game 1 because of Persephone issues.
Part, though.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the hardest things I think I ever had to do on broadcast was on a stage. Hindu and I like stalled for so long through multiple game resets and pauses and all that kind
brutal.
of stuff. And boy, that was work. For sure.
Maybe
I remember
not that one.
when I think back to like that set, that's really the first thing I think of was how hard that stalling was. Because stalling's always really hard, but to stall game 1 World's Finals, like, that was so hard. Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is Season 4 Finals.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to bring it up as a bad memory for my homie Tom, who I thought had an unbelievable cast overall, but at the very end of that set, he got a little tripped up on the end call, and that can happen, especially when it was really on the fence. And I think that I was able to help a good amount. Like, I wasn't upset with how I set him up to get back on track, but if I could go back and do that better, I think I would. And then to end my answer on a particularly sad note, I also, if I could, I would definitely go back and do the Season 8 finals with Finch again and just, really enjoy that set as much as I could. It was kind of a hard set to get as amped for because it was in studio, and we were disappointed that it was in studio, but I thought that it was still an unbelievable set, and I thought we had a really good cast and everything like that. But it's just one of those moments that if I could go back and appreciate it even more now, then I would certainly want to.
Good answers, guys.
Thanks, Barry. And thanks for good questions, Destiny. We kind of rambled. I didn't expect Destiny's questions to be so good because I thought they were your questions, Barry. I would have given Destiny's questions way more time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's understandable. I just really wanted to have good questions for Dolson, and I was like, I don't feel
Smart.
like I'm adequate enough to I see how much weight he does in the gym.
Yep.
After the whole Smith machine thing, I'm knocked down a peg. I gave you the ick.
Also, I thought earlier in this episode when you were talking about the two things with the ick aggro, I thought that was gonna lead into. I was like, if they're paying too much for their wireless service,
that would have been good.
I was waiting so long for that.
That would have been
pointed
good.
at the camera. I was like, oh, he's not doing it.
Honestly, something like that could be an ick for people. And I'm not kidding. When I say an ick, I've read online or seen a comment on a TikTok or a TikTok posted where someone's ick is they're walking with their boyfriend and their boyfriend trips and falls, and watching him flail and fall to the ground, seeing him in a vulnerable flip-floppy weak state has given people the ick before, and suddenly they're now clearly it's ridiculous. That type of person doesn't deserve a happy relationship if their person tripping suddenly icks them out or whatever, but that's the ridiculous stuff that people ick out over. It's a dude tripping, and suddenly seeing the way their body moves when they trip is an ick, and that's what's
so weird.
That's what's in my brain now.
I have an ick to share that is not podcast friendly, but we got to close the show so that we can get to it, so that I can tell you guys, because you guys are gonna love this one. Trust me on that. Random question of the week, of course, we do have to do. On that topic, I know we talked about setting up a Patreon. I did not get a chance to last week. I'm hoping to this week, though Lord knows I am super busy this week. It will be coming, and we will be able to get your fan submissions for Random Question of the Week a little bit easier. My Random Question of the Week this week has to do with board games, because I had some people over for board games this weekend. It was very fun. It really wasn't a board game that we played. We played a game called Werewolf, which is basically like Mafia or anything like that. But I really love playing that game. It's super fun. Do you guys have a favorite board game that you really enjoy?
I hate board games.
Really?
My family is a board game powerhouse. We play a lot of Settlers of Catan.
Great game.
Which is one of my favorite board games. And also the offshoot, the Oregon Trail used to be an old computer game they have a board game that you can play that is absurdly hard. And as a part of that board game, when your wagon needs to go out and hunt and eat meat, there's a separate game called Oregon Trail, like Hunt, that you go and play, and it's like absurdly hard to win the game. Everyone's playing together.
Holy crap!
You have to like roll dice to like you have like 16 total bullets, and it takes a certain amount to kill different animals. Blah blah blah, and it's such a hard game to play. But my family and as weird as we are, we'll sit on my parents' back deck. We'll all get together and have dinner. And when everyone's rolling the dice to try to kill the animal, make their bullet hit, we'll all sit out there and just chant meat, 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 meat over and over while pounding the table. And we're in an open, we're in a
right
screened-in porch, and so surely the whole neighborhood can hear us chanting meat. So Katana's my real answer, but I have the most fun playing the Oregon Trail meat killing game and chanting to kill the animals with my family.
That's absolutely awesome. BaRRa, have you played like anything beyond like Monopoly? I feel like that's what happens when people say they don't like board games. That's like, I've played Monopoly and Risk and don't like them. It's like, yeah, no one does.
So one of my best friends is like really into board games, and anytime we hang out, like for a while it was like, oh, like what board game should I play? And it's like 45 minutes of him telling us how to play the game, and by that point I'm like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm much more of the kind of guy that just like, give me the controller, don't tell me how to play the game, and I'll just play the game.
Sure.
And I'm the same way with like anything. Like, I don't really like to read instructions, I just like to hop in. And you can't really do that with, I mean, I think you can do that with board games, but there's so many like intricacies that
I'm an instructions main. I love instructions.
Yeah, I'm the exact opposite. Like, give me like 15 minutes of instructions, and like that's like acceptable. But anything beyond that, like, I'm sorry, my attention span it just flies away. Like, I won't remember things. Like,
yeah, that's fair. You guys gotta all come over and do Werewolf sometime. That game is unbelievably fun. It's not even a true board game. My family is really into board games as well, Dave. Taboo is our big one.
Taboo's good
among our family, and that's a good one for you too, BaRRa. Not a lot of rules with that one. Just say a word and don't use that.
We'd play like card games. I think we played like Great Down Moody and like Spoons with my family, but we were into like board games. We were more like,
I have so many
Hearts as well. That's a big
I guess not
card
really
game
a board game. My family loves to drink and play Cards Against Humanity.
Classic.
Not a board game, but like
good game.
Hearing my saint innocent mother saying these horrific things is always just very humorous to everyone.
Oh, I bet. I can only imagine. All right, well, we got to get going so that I can prep for my pick here in fantasy football. I haven't even logged in yet to our league at all this year.
What pick
it'll
are
be
you?
fine. I don't know.
What's your team name? Are you Tables Are My Job?
That could be me. Yeah. It's an I think you should leave themed fantasy football league.
Mine's Farmers Only, so.
Farmers Only. Okay, that's not bad. All right, thanks everyone for listening/watching. Make sure you follow Dave at Dolson Live on Twitter if you want to. All that kind of good stuff.
Follow me.
He's back. Yep, he's back on Twitter. Get in there. We'll catch you next time here with the Backliners. BaRRa, you know what to do.
Bye.
Clean
that was
out.
Such a good one. That was such a good one.
Yep,
that might be the best all year.
Yep.
Good
well
Lord.
He still got it.
Dropped the ad, but got the buy.
I don't know who